Coach is the third survivor in XP mod and is labelled as a berserker in the menus. Now I'm going to try my best not to be too salty here because Coach is the first character we're going to talk about that I actually think is overpowered. In fact, you know what? Cut the bullshit. Let's just get straight to why I think that.
I want armor! I'm gonna be a one-man cheeseburger apocalypse. We got a boomer!
So yeah, Coach has 300 health. That is a lot. Like, I feel like it's very easy for you to underrate how good that is. Because in a lot of games, getting more health can be seen as a pretty insignificant benefit. Because if you're good enough at the game, you can just not get hit. And so in a lot of games, at least in high skill ceiling circumstances, it is more useful to be able to make yourself stronger than to be able to give yourself more health. Because health is simply kind of an affordance of how many times you can mess up before it will lead you to die. But Left 4 Dead's a little bit different, because Left 4 Dead is not a game where you solo, you of course have to work as a team. Left 4 Dead is not a game where you don't take damage if you play good enough. Even if you play amazingly, you are still going to take damage. It's all about mitigating the risks of taking that damage. And having this much health is a massive problem for the infected. Not because it takes longer to kill you, it takes longer to slow you down. You see, I'm sure you've had a few games, especially if you play on PC, where it's just not been very fun as infected. The survivors have been staying together all the time, they've never been forced to separate, and they're all on green health, so they're all walking just fine. And despite the fact that you might not even be a bad player, and you might even have a decent team, you just can't get a single in, because the survivors are simply sticking together, and you have to catch one on their own. And if the map is open enough, maybe you can't even punish them with boomers or spitters. The way you get around that is by just doing enough incremental insignificant damage by getting killed as soon as you land on someone, until eventually they're down to a low enough health where they start to limp. And usually as soon as one person starts limping, slowly the whole team starts to fall apart, because people won't wait for them, people will go ahead, things like that, then people will say no, go back for him, disagreements start happening in the team, and then you can start catching people on their own, or at least a little bit further away from their teammates than that would be convenient. Getting people to this point where they finally start limping is really important. And already, as you can imagine, since there's more health to start with, getting them to a low enough percentage of their health to make them limp is going to take a while with Coach. 3 times as long, right? Only it's worse than that. Because limping is not based on health percentage. It is just based on a fixed amount. It is just when you are under 40 health, you move at a slower speed. Even though that means in terms of percentages, Coach should start limping at 120 health. He will not limp at 120 health. He will not start limping until he drops as low as less than 40. You have to do 260 damage to Coach to get him to even start slightly moving a little bit slower. That is actually massive. Man, it's a good thing he doesn't give other benefits to everyone else of the team that gives them even more health, so at least you could target other people on the team, right? Oh, Jesus, what have you done, man? Okay, well, I guess at least he can't regenerate health.
Okay.
I shouldn't say anything. Jeez, what the? He regenerates health faster than Bill! What? Okay, hang on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me start actually from the beginning instead of... Let's stop being salty. So first of all, I'm sorry. Because this video is probably going to be a bit of a mess in terms of format because, oh boy, as you can tell, Coach has a lot of abilities, a kind of stupid amount of abilities for someone who already has 300 health. I'm going to have to talk about them all, but also I don't think I can just talk about them from top to bottom in a nice order. I feel like there's some things I have to look at first. I guess the best place to start would just be general survivability. So on top of already having 300 health himself to start, he also gives plus 25 max health to all his other teammates, which means that it's not really becoming a weakness that just because you have so much health just means that the others will get targeted. Yes, that's still the case partially, but it's not like they're too fragile. Even if they pick Ellis, the character with the lowest maximum health in XP mod, they're still going to have 125. And did I mention it stacks? Because it stacks. In fact, if you have 2 coaches on your team, they will both have 325 health. If you have a full team of coaches, you can have a full team of people with 375 health. Besides that, having a coach in your team will also reduce screen shake by 50% for all of your team, which means if you have just 2 coaches, there is no more screen shake anymore. Now, you might be like me, and you might be hearing that and be like, that sounds like a very insignificant little benefit though, because I mean, it's just a visual thing, isn't it? When your screen shakes, I mean, you can get used to that, right? That's what I thought at first, but it's not just visual. It will also increase the spread of your bullets while your screen is shaking, unless the screen shake is reduced, so you can shoot more straight when the screen shake is reduced. Again, when I'm talking about spread, I'm talking about random spread, I'm not talking about bad aim. Like, you can aim in the perfect direction, but the bullets can spread the wrong way, just randomly, and you have a lower chance of that happening if you have less screen shake. It also applies to when commons hit you, and I can't tell you how many times there's been someone standing directly in front of me who needs saving from a smoker or a hunter or something, and I just can't quite get to them to shove it, and I have to shoot it off. And I'm shooting, and I'm shooting, and I'm shooting, and every shot looks like it should be hitting dead on, but every single time a common just hits me and knocks my crosshair out the way, that counts as screen shake. So if you have no screen shake, that means that in those situations you'll never miss and you will free those people straight away. All these benefits combined also make Coach great bait for the team. Whenever you run into a situation in a campaign where you know the next room is going to be absolutely deadly, but you have to go there and you can't just sit around waiting, send your coach in. They have so much health, they're not going to die. And as well as that, if it happens to be a jockey that was waiting to kill you, yeah, jockeys can't move Coach, like, at all. Not to mention all this health means that you can easily be that guy who just shrugs off 1,000 damage as he revives the entire team. Now, all this being said, I actually don't have a problem with the fact that Coach is so good at just living with all this health. I feel like it makes sense for the character, and, you know, it's the playstyle they were going for when they made him. My main problem with him, and I'm not going to get too much into it again, I'll do balance videos on these later, / design videos, but my main problem with him is that I feel like he has other abilities on top of that, which are too good considering how good he already is with these health abilities. Speaking of that, his bind 1 and bind 2. Now, his bind 1 is less of a problem. His bind 2 is an absolute blast, but is maybe a bit too much considering he already has such strong benefits to, well, being picked. So his bind 1 will place down a mountable turret wherever you're standing in whichever direction you're facing. And it's not that useful, but I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's not useless. It can be useful because you only have shotguns and melees with Coach, so if you want to shoot something from far away, sometimes it might be a good idea just to drop down the turret and drop it and start firing. Obviously, you do have to worry about friendly fire a lot more with the turret, and the damage with it isn't actually that impressive, especially when you have all your normal weapons buffed, but the turrets still have the normal vanilla games damage. But, you know, if you're just sitting in a spot waiting for a horde to pass by before you can progress, then, you know, you may as well drop one down. And I mean, you can do it 3 times, so you don't really have to worry about, oh, I've got to save this for the perfect moment a lot of the time. So, you know, it's got its uses. But his bind 2, it's a little crazy. His bind 2 is a jetpack. Yeah, we already had a grappling hook, now we have a jetpack. Now, to be fair, the grappling hook is probably a little bit better, but as you can imagine, the jetpack is very comparable in strength. It is extremely effective at making Coach a lot more mobile. But the main problem with that is, well, now you've made a character that is not only super good at living, just in general, and dealing damage, and is able to heal himself, but now he can also fly. Fairness where it's due, though. Just like the grappling hook, the jetpack has its problems. Obviously, whenever you try to use it to do something crazy overpowered seeming, you will usually put yourself in a spot where you could potentially screw over your entire team. Or at the very least, just be in a bit more danger than was necessary.
No, don't do it!
What are you doing?
Oh, shit! shit, this ain't gonna be good. Nope.
So yeah, in that clip you saw that thanks to the smoker that was hiding there on the staircase, I couldn't really stay up there, because obviously my team is still waiting for the door and can't get to me if I get downed, and the smoker's going to pull me into a position where they can't look up and shoot in time, unless they were very quick and get the tong. So I had to just run there, and sadly, although it would have been nice to use the jetpack to negate the fall damage, it would take too long to turn on, so I just ran and took the fall damage. But, of course, Coach has so much health that fall damage wasn't really much of a downside. Honestly, I still came out of that alright. So let's get a better example of how you can really get screwed over by using the jetpack wrong. How about this clip?
Oh shit! Why you get dragged up? Something's got me!
Haha, what a funny little clip to show the shortcomings of Coach, right? I mean, you saw I got smoked pretty far away from the team and in a pretty awkward spot, and there's a whole horde of commons that have to fight in between us. That's, well, it's in a wide open area as well, so you can't really funnel them through a narrow doorway to easily deal with them, so, you know, there's no easy way for them to really get me. I must be completely dead there, right? I couldn't possibly use this as another excuse to complain about Coach, right?
Say, Ron, you go!
Just look at this shit, look how much health I have left even after I get punished super hard here.
Complain.
I'm sorry, but I really feel like I have to hammer it in. 300 health is a lot. It is really, really useful to have that much health in Left 4 Dead.
Hit the button. Woo! Yeah, baby!
Oh, I'm gonna die of salt poisoning at this rate. Okay, you know what? Fine. I'll stop complaining about it. Let me actually show you a clip of me genuinely getting fucked over and actually even screwing over my entire team by getting a bit too cheeky with the jetpack. There is this very well-known skip that you can do with the jetpack, especially because it's very, very difficult to do with the grappling hook. I actually don't even know if it's possible. I've never seen it before, but I think it's possible. But you would only really see coaches do this with jetpacks because it's much more practical to do it this way. The second chapter of Dead Air, you can skip straight from the safe room to the crane using the jetpack, because if you didn't know, the big building on the right as you leave the safe room is actually the same building you are on top of when you do the crane horde. So that means obviously with the jetpack, there's no invisible wall stopping you from just all the way up to the crane, skip the whole climbing up the fire exits and through the apartments, and you can start the horde before your team even gets there. Now, of course, this would usually just be a meme and nothing else. In fact, it wouldn't even be useful to start the horde because you could just use the jetpack to avoid having to wait for the thing to lower the box with the ladder on it, because you don't need the ladder, you can just fly over. Obviously, this is really useful to run ahead, but you would have to run ahead right from the start, which, as I discussed, is not a good idea. You'd think this is just a meme, but it can be a good strategy, and that is mostly for the reason that you can start the horde and then come back to your team, and then when you come back to the crane when your team gets there, the horde's already done, and you don't have to wait for the crane anymore. Honestly, it's not that hard to be able to do that. You don't have to be there long, you just have to fly up to the crane, hit the button, and run back. But of course, if you get pinned while you're there, no one's going to be able to save you, so it's a bit dangerous. Now, to be fair, I was a bit thoughtless in this clip. I don't think this skip is actually as much of a meme as some people think. I think it's genuinely a decent idea to do it a lot of the time, but here I definitely made some questionable decisions. You see, I often forget that the spitter has the ability to spawn a witch. Well, no, I don't forget that. I remember that. What I don't remember is that when the spitter spawns a witch in this mod, they're disguised as a common. They still make witch noises, but they appear as just a normal common infected. And for whatever reason, no matter how long I play this mod, I never remember that. I always think that it looks like a normal witch. And so there was one common infected standing in the way of the button, and I started hearing witch noises, and I thought, oh, I better hit this button quick and get out of here. And I just cut right into it and startled the witch, and well, you can see how that went to shit from there. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I'd forgotten that last round the crane was where the tank spawned, so I spawned a tank on us when we had barely left spawn. So yeah, I kind of fucked up here.
Get back, you bastard! I'll break your legs!
Oh!
Oh shit! Bitch on my ass!
Complain.
Alternatively, though, sometimes it works. Like here.
Okay.
Another one.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, I may have been charged, but I got saved practically instantly. Let me actually see my last thing I will say to be a bit more humble about what Coach is like and be like, okay, maybe he's not that OP. You can fall into the trap of feeling a bit invincible when you shouldn't. I mean, yeah, being completely immune to the jockey's pull is pretty cool, but it doesn't really help if you're the only one left.
Look at this dude.
Tell me this boy ain't for real. What the hell are you on? Boy, you ain't got any sense in that head, do you? Ellis, is that you? What the hell? Get this damn thing off! Yeah. You try that shit on me, and you'll be wishing your mama never met your father.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Wait, what? The jockey's moving me, but I'm Coach. What? What?
No, hell no. We walked through a world of shit to get here. We are not gonna die now. We are not gonna die now!
But that clip was more just for jokes. On a serious note, genuinely, you can think you're invincible when you try and take on tanks with Coach, because Coach is surprisingly good at killing tanks. However, there is a bit of an issue sometimes you can run into, especially with necro tanks, of thinking you're invincible when you're not. And it doesn't help that a lot of the time you kind of have to assume it's going to work even if you probably shouldn't. Because the necro tank in particular is a tank that can spawn more zombies, and when it kills its own zombies it gains health, and it starts out very vulnerable and weak, but will grow the more that you leave it on its own to spawn more zombies. So you really have to stop it from being able to gain all this health by just being left alone gaining health. So you have to chase it down. But then you can run into the trap of running directly at it with a sword and just expecting to kill it. What can happen there is that the necro tank also gets to spawn more zombies when it hits you. And so it lands one hit on you and it spawns a bunch of zombies around you, and now you can't run away, and now it lands another hit on you and gains a bunch of health because it also hit all the zombies around you, and now it's healing faster than you're damaging it, and now you're dead. Good clip of that right here.
No.
It's time to do.
Pussies. Ooh, how you like me now? Oh, eat that shit! Boom! This used to be a nice neighbor. Ah! Damn, this shit looks dangerous. This ain't how I thought it would go. Ah! Hell no, boy. Shoot that big mother. How you like that? Ah! My bad. Oh, shit. Ah! They beat your ass good, didn't they? That right there, that was my fault.
Okay, maybe just one more funny clip. You see, while I was getting footage for this video, I had to kind of force myself to use Coach's Bind 1 a little bit more than I usually would, because usually I'd basically never use it. And again, that's not even saying it's bad. Like, in theory, I guess I probably should use it a bit more, but obviously I kind of forced myself to use it a little bit just so I'd have some footage of it, and that led to some...
Uh-oh.
But alright, let's finally get into actually getting through all the stuff on this sheet, because Jesus, there's a lot of abilities to cover, because I've actually been showing some uses of abilities in these clips that I haven't even explained yet, like the raging thing and all that, which I just used while fighting that tank. So let's actually start explaining those. So as mentioned before, Coach can heal himself, just like with Bill with crouching, although he couldn't heal himself with that. That's how you do it with Coach. It will heal 1 1/3 HP per second, which is, again, faster than Bill, who does less than 1 HP a second. Let's forget about that. Anyway, he also, while healing himself while crouching, he'll also be charging up his melee attack. When his melee attack is charged up, the next special infected / tank it hits will deal an extra 500 damage. And if you hit with a quote-unquote headshot, basically cut their head off, then you will also instantly recharge another hit so that you don't have to charge up again to get another 500 damage bonus if you hit them in the head. So, yeah, not very useful to be fair, believe it or not, most of the time. Against tanks, more useful, and I guess potentially against witches. I haven't seen people really try crowning them with melees. They tend to prefer shotguns, obviously, but it might be an option. Obviously, the melee charge is less what you're interested in here. It's more the health regeneration, because that's good health regeneration to say it's for someone who isn't a healer. And Coach's other non-bind ability is to go berserk by holding down the walk key and the use key, which will make it so that for the next 20 seconds, you'll move 20% faster, all your melees will do an extra 100 damage, and as well as that, you'll be able to regenerate health without having to crouch. Now, since it didn't say how much health you do regenerate, and since obviously it tells you how much health you regenerate when you crouch, at first I assumed it would be the same health you would get if you were crouching. But actually it's more than that. I was watching some of the footage while editing this, and I realized that it was going up in ticks of 4 health instead of 1. Now, because the exact numbers is that you gain 1 health every 3/4 of a second, which is why it adds up to 1 1/3 health a second, when you're normally crouching, I think that means that you heal 4 health every 3/4 of a second while this is active too, because it seems to be about the same interval as well, which would mean that you're healing 5.33 health per second while you're in this as well, which is not bad to be honest. Of course though, I will admit they do have something that shows that they know this could be a bit too good, because after you use this, there is a 60-second long cooldown, not just on using the ability again, but while this cooldown is, you're waiting for it, you cannot heal yourself by crouching anymore, and there's also a passive ability which can increase your speed, which gets disabled until the cooldown is over. Jesus, this is probably the longest it's ever taken for me to get to talking about the weapon class of a survivor, but I mean, it didn't feel right for me to start talking about that when there's so many other things with Coach that's of much more attention grabbing, shall we say. So we're now getting into them. He, weirdly enough, specializes in 2 things at once, shotguns and melees, as you could see. So melees is a bit complicated, shotguns is looking a bit more simple. Shotguns, it has 2 very simple benefits. 1, you get plus 10 damage per shotgun pellet, which again, that probably doesn't sound like a lot of damage, but again, it's per pellet, it's not per bullet. Each bullet splits into multiple pellets and each pellet has plus 10 damage, which adds up a lot more. And as well as that, you have plus 10 ammo in a clip, so you can have 20 ammo in a clip shotguns. Reloading's a little bit weird with Coach because of this, but it seems to be that if you try and reload a lot of bullets at once, like if you're reloading like more than 15 bullets, eventually he'll start reloading super fast to get to full. Just watch out that sometimes if you're reloading and reloading and reloading and you're not stopping reloading, just cancel the reload, because sometimes the game can get confused and think that it hasn't reloaded all your bullets when it has, and will keep reloading constantly until you cancel the reload. And when you cancel it, you should still have all the bullets that you loaded into the shotgun, so don't worry. For the melee, there's a bit more going on. Of course, there's already the ability we talked about where crouching can charge up the next melee hit to make it do an extra 500 damage. Well, besides that, Coach just has a passive plus 150 damage to all melees. As well as that, he'll give everyone on his team plus 50% fuel if they have a chainsaw. Although I don't really see people pick chainsaw. I actually meant to use the chainsaw when I was getting foot. You know, it's too late now. I spent way too long on this video now. Well, anyway, besides just that, there are also 2 benefits you'll get whenever decapitating infected by knocking their heads off with a melee. You will, first of all, get an extra 10 damage to your melee attacks every single time you land a decap, and that stacks up to 50 times. Now, 10 damage isn't a lot, but if you get that to the maximum stack, you can get plus 500 damage per melee. It's a lot of damage to have on every single melee hit, especially again against tanks. Really good at killing tanks. And the other bonus is honestly shocking to me. If you land a decapitation on an infected, unless you have already enraged yourself and you're waiting for the next rage to recharge, because this is the speed up passive that the Enrage temporarily disables when it's on cooldown. But if that isn't the case, when you land a decapitation, for the next 5 seconds, Coach will move 50% faster, and then for 5 seconds after that, it will lower to 25% faster, and then obviously back to normal speed.
Be gone!
That is pretty good. Like, that might not sound that crazy, but adrenaline only makes you move 23% faster. So it makes you, it's double the speed boost adrenaline would give you just for landing a shot on the head. Like, I didn't want to say headshot because it's a gun, but I basically just said headshot, like a melee, a decapitation. For landing one of those, you essentially get a temporary adrenaline speed boost. Only it's better than normal adrenaline. That's pretty good, especially for a character that you would think would be less mobile, but then again, I guess they got a jetpack. Oh no, I'm going back to the salt. That can be very useful as well when it comes to, well, fighting tanks as well, because having that speed boost makes it a lot easier to dip in and out and bob and weave and not get hit while still landing hits on them. Oh, and yeah, I almost forgot. Just like Rochelle, no melee fatigue, so you can shove as much as you want. And finally, we're approaching the end. He has one last specialty, which is kind of another quote-unquote weapon specialty, which is kind of weird that he kind of has 3. And that is he's also a form of grenadier, because he can hold 3 grenades instead of being limited to 1, and as well as that, he will start the game with a random grenade. You will usually not see that random grenade because you can also give yourself a grenade right at the start of the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who play this game regularly who didn't know that you get a random grenade at the start with Coach, because they will usually have a grenade in their equipment anyway, and the one in your equipment takes priority. You get that grenade. So you may think this is useless, but I mentioned before you can hold 3. So that means even if you don't pick up any other grenades at the start, if you have your equipment set and you pick Coach, you will actually start the game with 2 grenades straight away, although you won't know what one of them is. But still. Now, you may be like, okay, that doesn't sound very helpful though, because you could only have 1 in that slot, like in the actual game, and the mod, of course, can't increase the size of that slot so you can see all 3. So you'd be limited to the most recent one you picked, right? Well, not quite. You can actually switch to your other grenades. I will admit it's not super practical, but if you needed one of your other grenades desperately, if there was a tank coming and you needed a Molotov and you were holding a pipe bomb, you could hold the warp button and then press the zoom in button, whatever it is for you on a sniper. By default, I believe it's middle click, but most people would change that because if you even scroll your wheel slightly and while trying to do the middle click, then you won't zoom in with the sniper, which is obviously super frustrating. Personally, for me, I have it so that I can't scroll up to switch weapons. I can only scroll down, and scroll up is how I zoom in with snipers. So I would hold the control button, which is what I got set to my walk key, although by default it's shift, and then I would scroll up. But again, by default it should be shift and middle click. If you do that and you're holding a grenade, it will switch it to your other grenade. So you can cycle through your grenades like that. There's a clip of that right here. So that's technically everything about Coach, but I just wanted to add this little bit to the end of this video, talking about how it's kind of weird that he has all these weapon specialties and what's up with that. It sounds like, essentially, that Coach is probably going to get a big redesign in the future of some sort. Not the near future, so I still feel like it's worth putting out this video. I know that the developer plans for when Francis is added, he wants him to be the one who specializes in shotguns, which makes more sense. That definitely would make sense considering that even though shotguns are like Coach's weapon class, he only has 2 abilities which make them better. He has so many abilities that only having 2 makes it feel a bit weird. There was also some talk of Francis specializing in the grenade launcher. I know it's not like solidified right now. It could go the other way. It could be that Francis becomes the grenadier character who specializes in the grenade launcher and is the one that can hold 3 grenades and swap them out. Either way though, that's the end of that video. Please subscribe.
Safe house in that storage place.
Hello, motherfucker.
So close. I mean, you were touching the door handle.
I literally closed the door and it just grabbed me while it was being closed.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Coach, I noticed Coach seems to be a really strong character.
Oh yeah. I personally think that he's overpowered.
That's Poggers.